Okay, so now we're on to time control, which is a biggie.
Yeah, so time control is another form of Maloo control. If you're too busy to think straight, then you can't think critical thoughts about the group that you're in. It limits your energy for thinking critically. It isolates the member from outsiders and outsider information. It immerses the member fully within the group because you're always working on group projects or the various dictates that the group has given to you or the leaders of the group has given to you. It creates dependency because that's where your occupation always is within the group. And exhaustion actually can lead to altered mental states, or you become more susceptible to persuasion when you're tired. We will talk in another presentation about altered mental states and how they interplay with all of this. It leaves little time for self-care, so you can't really just take care of yourself, fill your own cup, so you have more to fill other people's cups. And it creates a cognitive dissonance funnel that always resolves to the group. Why am I working so hard? Again, that belief follows behavior. I must be working so hard because the doctrines are true. There's a little caption on the side, a little Mormon ad, going nowhere, and it's got a guy on a giant hamster wheel. And the caption says, are the things that keep you busy taking you where you want to go? And of course, where the Mormon church is implying that you ought to go is the celestial kingdom by working hard for the church.
Yes. And I've got some things I want to jump in and say, but I'm going to let you do a couple more slides because you have some good examples here. So,
all right. Yeah. So Stephen Hassan, in Releasing the Bonds, said cults often impose an oppressive time schedule on their members' lives in order to control behavior. When members are not engaged in cult rituals and indoctrination activities, they are typically assigned to specific goals that restrict their free time and behavior, anything to keep them busy. In a destructive cult, there is always work to be done. And Michael Langoni, in Recovery from Cults, said, in order to advance, in quotes, at a satisfactory pace, members must spend long hours involved in various tasks or practices the leadership deems necessary. In short, members spend more and more time with and under the direction of the group. So I don't know if that sounds familiar to anyone. It sure does to me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a few more quotes from cult researchers here. John Goldhammer in Under the Influence said, lack of sufficient rest and sensory overload contribute to the inability of the individual to have time to think about the validity of information being received. That's kind of repeating what I've already said, but I sometimes put in here these quotes to just show that I'm not making this up. I do have a lot of references in my book to show that I'm not making this up. Someone else said it about other groups. And Margaret Thaler Singer in Cults in Our Midst said, you plod and plod and plod along. You are incredibly confused, but don't know any way of dealing with your confusion. And finally, put your shoulder to the wheel, push along is something I heard somewhere.
Absolutely. And then some scriptures. You got some scriptures.
We'll see. Does the church really demand all these things on your time? Well, let's find out. So D&C 58:26 says, for behold, it is not meet that I should command in all things. For he that is compelled in all things, the same is a slothful and not a wise servant. Wherefore he receiveth no reward. So even when the church isn't telling you what to do with every minute of your day, we are told that we're still supposed to be thinking of things to do on behalf of the gospel or God or the church throughout our day. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble for not thinking about it and doing it on our own. D&C 123:13, we should, part of the scripture, not the whole one, we should waste and wear out our lives in bringing to light all the hidden things of darkness. Waste and wear out our lives. D&C 88:24, again, edited for brevity, cease to be idle, cease to sleep longer than is needful.
Mm-hmm. And there's just the beehive, right? The busy bee. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the symbol of Utah? It's the Deseret, it's the beehive, it's the busy bee. There's a queen bee, which you could say, ironically, is the patriarchy. And then there's all the worker bees, and all they do is exist to support the hive. And it's not to say that, again, that the church is evil. There's a lot of good that comes from that level of order and productivity. But there is this just constant tension where the individual can be sacrificed for the good of the hive. Mm-hmm. And if you care about, Jesus tried to turn that on its head and say, no, the one matters. Leave the 99 and go after the one. So if you're going to claim to be a Christian organization, if you're going to claim to follow Jesus, then you've got to care about the one and not privilege the the welfare of the 99 over the one, which means the hive mentality needs to be problematic and fraught for you, which means you need to care about the individual and how much,
Mhm.
they're getting chewed up and spit out, so to speak.
Right. And what's the good of serving the group if the group doesn't serve the group, if the group doesn't serve the people of the group? And I always say that the point of religion is to serve the members of the religion, not for the members of the religion to serve the religion. And the religion already has power. So if the religion isn't helping out each and every one of its members, then what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. The church was made for humans, not humans for the church, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
How
Yes.
much time do
Okay.
you spend? So when I first started writing this, things are a little different in the church. There was still a 3-hour block, so I think I've modified this to match the present church. Now, how many hours do we spend? And I did go out on some forums at the time to sort of help brainstorm and think of all the different ways we spent time. And in my book, I think I actually add up all the hours. I think I came up to a minimum of 20 hours a week that the average active Mormon spends at church. I don't remember if that's the exact number, but something. It's a lot. It's a part-time job. So Mormons spend 2 hours a week at Sunday church meetings plus an hour of Sunday church homeschool or whatever, I don't know what they call it. An average of 8 hours a week for callings, 2 hours a week for additional meetings, like if you're a mutual or relief society, priesthood meetings, 2 hours Monday for family home evening, 1 hour a day for scripture reading and prayer. That does not include, and this is fine print on the slide because there's a lot of stuff, girls' camp and state conference and scouting and dance festivals and ward gatherings and seminary and talent shows and high demand callings. If you're a bishop or a quorum president, supporting your spouse's calling, missions, member missionary work, temple attendance, genealogy and family history, cleaning the meeting house, service, gardening, food storage, journaling, studying church publications, magnifying your talents, and having a large family. So that's just some phew, of what we did as Mormons in terms of time control.
It's exhausting just to read it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that I was going to just mention earlier is there's just this common question. It's like, how can intelligent people stay in the church? How can intelligent people believe the church? And then there's always this question of like, do the brethren really believe? Do the Quorum of the 12 and the First Presidency, or is it just a big fraud, or do they really believe? And the thing that I can say is time control is a really important part of that puzzle, because if you literally are kept so busy between your responsibilities as, a parent and in your professional opportunities or responsibilities, and then you add on there any self-care plus church responsibilities, do you have even time to read the New York Times? Do you have time to watch R-rated movies or to have friendships outside of your Mormon circles? Do you have time to read books, that might have you look at other worldviews? And then is it possible, if you're so busy serving the church along with your career and parenting and spousal responsibilities, is it possible to go 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years never even stopping to ask some of those fundamental questions? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely, that's true. Absolutely, that's possible. And it's in fact the reality. So can you get to age 80 having never seen the CES letter or read Fawn Brody, or even stop to ask yourself if maybe your worldview isn't lining up with reality? I think the proof is in the pudding.
And then we felt guilty for every time we did read a novel that showed another worldview. I mean, uh, my downtime, I played video games when I was Mormon. I read books for fun, and I felt a lot of guilt doing those things. And then that gets me. I'm not looking at how maybe the church could be flawed, or maybe how the church is asking too much of me. I am looking back at myself and feeling bad about my actions, and that's sort of another reinforcing emotional form of Milieu control.